The signal bridge crackles with encrypted operational orders, transforming into tactical directives. June 11th, 1944. Task Force 58, Majuro Atoll, Marshall Islands. Operation Forager commences. Proceed to Marianas. Execute air superiority operations against Japanese positions on Saipan, Tinian, Guam. Maintain fleet readiness for anticipated enemy carrier response. Vice Admiral Mark Andrew Mitchell lowers his binoculars and turns to his operations officer. The assembled task force represents the largest concentration of naval aviation power ever assembled. 15 fleet carriers, 7 battleships, 21 cruisers, 69 destroyers. What none of them can fully anticipate is that this single operation will trigger the most devastating carrier battle in naval history, will effectively destroy Japanese naval aviation forever. Task Force 58 cuts through Pacific swells at 25 knots. The massive Essex-Class carriers displacing 27,100 tons at standard load. Each ship stretches 872 feet in length, with beam of 93 feet. Mitchell stands on Flag Bridge of USS Lexington, studying formations spread across 40 miles of ocean. His command includes 7 Essex-Class carriers: USS Essex, USS Yorktown, USS Hornet, USS Bunker Hill, USS Wasp, USS Lexington, and USS Enterprise, plus 8 Independence-class light carriers, including USS Belleau Wood, USS Bataan, USS Monterey, USS Cowpens, and others. Each Essex-class carrier houses 3,448 men and air group of 90 aircraft, 4 squadrons, 36 F-6F Hellcat fighters, 36 SB-2C Helldiver dive bombers, 18 TBF Avenger torpedo bombers. The mathematics of carrier warfare are elegant in simplicity. 900 aircraft, operating from mobile platforms that can position anywhere across Pacific. Each carrier possesses 4 elevators cycling aircraft between hangar deck and flight deck in Mach 45 seconds. Flight deck catapults can launch aircraft every 30 seconds during surge operations. Captain Arleigh Burke, Mitchell's chief of staff, calculated tactical implications with characteristic precision. Harvard Law School graduate turned naval strategist, Burke understands carrier warfare is ultimately about time and space equations. Launch cycles, recovery windows, fuel consumption rates, ammunition expenditure. Difference between victory and defeat often comes down to minutes in launch timing and nautical miles in positioning. Aboard Japanese carrier Taiho, Vice Admiral Jisaburo Ozawa reviews operational orders for Operation Eigo, the newest and largest carrier in Imperial Japanese Navy. Taiho displaces 29,300 tons, carries 75 aircraft. Her armored flight deck, unique among Japanese carriers, designed to withstand 500-pound bomb hits. 9 carriers with 430 aircraft represent Japan's last concentrated carrier striking force. First Mobile Fleet includes veterans Shokaku and Zuikaku, survivors of Pearl Harbor, fleet carriers Junyo and Hyo, light carriers Ryuho, Chitose, Chiyoda, and Zuiho. But the numbers conceal fatal weakness, plaguing all Japanese carrier operations by mid-1944. Pilot quality has deteriorated catastrophically. Where Pearl Harbor veterans averaged 700 hours flight time, pilots aboard Ozawa's carriers average fewer than 275 hours. Some have as little as 100 hours total. The mathematics of attrition has destroyed Japanese naval aviation as surely as any weapon. Imperial Navy lost over 400 experienced pilots at Midway, another 250 at Eastern Solomons and Santa Cruz. hundreds more during Grinding Solomon's campaign. American carriers form into 4 task groups as they approach Marianas on June 11th. Task Group 58.1 under Rear Admiral Joseph Clark. Task Group 58.2 commanded by Rear Admiral Alfred Montgomery. Task Group 58.3 led by Rear Admiral John Reeves. Task Group 58.4 under Rear Admiral William Harrell. At 1300 hours, 1st Essex-Class fighter sweep launches against Japanese airfields. Lieutenant Commander Charles Brewer, commanding VF-15 from USS Essex, leads 32 Hellcats towards Saipan's Aslito airfield. The Grumman F-6F Hellcat represents everything Essex-Class carriers embody. Superiority through industrial mass production. Powered by 2,000 horsepower Pratt & Whitney R. 2,800 double Wasp engine. Hellcat reaches 380 miles per hour, climbs to 20,000 feet in 7 minutes. At 1335, Brewer's Hellcats encounter 1st Japanese defenders. 30 Mitsubishi, a 6M0's rise to intercept. But engagement is brutally one-sided. 0, revolutionary in 1940, is now catastrophically obsolete. Maximum speed, 331 miles per hour. No armor protection, no self-sealing fuel tanks. Japanese pilots average less than 200 hours flight time. Many have fewer than 100 hours. First day's combat over Marianas destroys 147 Japanese aircraft for loss of 11 American planes. Commander David McCampbell would later describe it as clubbing baby seals. Japanese pilots fly predictable patterns, fail to maintain formation integrity, show poor gunnery skills. Their tactical communications confused and contradictory. June 19th approaches. Operation AGO activates. 700 aircraft total will clash over Philippine Sea. Most lopsided air combat in history about to begin. Essex-Class carriers about to validate American industrial approach to warfare. Japanese naval aviation about to be destroyed forever. The mathematics are inexorable. Industrial democracy versus warrior tradition. Systematic training versus collapsed programs. Radar versus visual combat. 900 American aircraft versus 430 Japanese, 500 hours. Training versus 275. The outcome predetermined by industrial capacity. The execution about to be absolute. The Pacific War taught American planners that aircraft carriers were decisive weapons of modern naval warfare. Control the skies, and you controlled seas. Control seas, and you could project power across vast Pacific distances that once protected Japan. Essex-Class carriers represented America's industrial answer to strategic equation of Pacific warfare. Design began 1940. Navy wanted fleet carriers capable of sustained operations across Pacific. Requirements were demanding. Must carry large air groups, must possess speed-matching battleships, must have endurance for extended operations, must incorporate armor for survivability. Newport News Shipbuilding and Dry Dock Company received first contract, laid keel for USS Essex August 5, 1941. Other shipyards followed: Bethlehem Steel at Quincy, Massachusetts, Brooklyn Navy Yard, Philadelphia Naval Shipyard, Norfolk Navy Yard. Distributed production, ensuring continuous output. Each Essex-Class carrier stretched 872 feet length, beam 93 feet, draft 28 feet, standard displacement 27,100 tons, full load 36,600 tons, 4 Westinghouse geared turbines generating 150,000 shaft horsepower, top speed 33 knots. The armament was impressive: 12 5-inch 38 caliber dual-purpose guns, 44 40mm Bofors anti-aircraft guns, 52 20mm Oerlikon cannons, Every weapon coordinated through Mark 37 gun directors with radar fire control. Anti-aircraft defense was overwhelming. Flight deck measured 862 feet length, 108 feet width, 2 hydraulic catapults forward, 3 elevators, 1 forward centerline, 2 deck edge starboard side. Hangar deck could accommodate entire air group with maintenance space. Aviation fuel capacity 128,000 gallons. Aviation ordnance magazines held 2,000 tons bombs and torpedoes. Crew complement was massive, 3,448 men, 460 officers, 2,988 enlisted. Air group officers and enlisted separate. Accommodations included berthing, mess facilities, medical spaces, administrative offices. Ship was floating city. The Combat Information Center represented revolutionary innovation. Darkened compartment below armored deck. Radar repeater scopes displayed tactical picture. Status boards tracked friendly and enemy contacts. Communications circuits connected to fighter direction, ship control, gun directors. Everything coordinated through CIC. Electronic warfare, replacing visual command. Construction time decreased through standardization. 43. Time reduced to 14 months. Assembly line techniques. Prefabricated components. Standardized fittings. Industrial efficiency applied to warship construction. USS Essex commissioned December 31, 1942. First of her class. Proving design sound. Subsequent ships incorporated combat lessons continuously. Improved radar systems. Enhanced damage control. Better habitability. Each carrier more capable than predecessor. By June 1944, 7 Essex-Class carriers operational with Task Force 58. Another 17 under construction or fitting out. American shipyards launching 1 carrier every 6 months. Production rate Japan couldn't match. Industrial capacity overwhelming. The impossible was industrialized excellence. Producing naval aviation platforms unprecedented in capability. Mobile airfields carrying 90 aircraft. Speed, allowing them to position anywhere. Endurance enabling sustained operations. Radar providing electronic detection. Damage control ensuring survivability. Everything designed for industrial warfare. Japanese carriers were individually excellent, but industrially limited. Taiho's armored flight deck was engineering marvel. But Japan could build only 1. Americans built 24 Essex-Class carriers. Quality versus quantity. Craftsmanship versus mass production. Warrior tradition versus industrial democracy. The beginning was deliberate design. Every system redundant. Every capability maximized. Every lesson incorporated. Essex-Class carriers were weapons designed for total war. Capable of sustained operations across Pacific. Coordinated with sister ships. Supported by unlimited industrial production. Training continuous. Replacements guaranteed. Mathematics favoring America? Absolutely. June 11th. Task Force 58 approached Marianas. 7 Essex-Class carriers leading. Ready to validate design through combat. Japanese Operation A-Go. Preparing to challenge them. Collision inevitable. Outcome predetermined by industrial capacity. The carrier war began Pearl Harbor, with Japan possessing world's most experienced naval aviation. 6 carriers attacked December 7, 1941. Launched 350 aircraft. Sank or damaged 8 battleships. Destroyed 188 aircraft. Killed over 2,000 Americans. Demonstrated carrier aviation's decisive power. Changed naval warfare forever. But Pearl Harbor marked Japanese naval aviation's peak. Every subsequent engagement consumed irreplaceable pilots. Coral Sea, May 1942. Japan lost carrier Shoho, 69 aircraft. Midway, June 1942. 4 fleet carriers sunk. 307 aircraft destroyed. 110 pilots killed. Veterans with years of training. Eastern Solomons, August 1942. 90 Japanese aircraft lost. Santa Cruz, October 1942. Carrier Zuiho damaged. 105 aircraft destroyed. Guadalcanal Campaign, August 1942 through February 1943. Hundreds more pilots lost in grinding attrition. Japanese pilot training couldn't replace losses. Pre-war program required 3 years. Candidates selected through competitive examination. Training emphasized quality over quantity. Navigation, gunnery, tactics, all taught thoroughly. Graduates were elite warriors. But program produced only few hundred pilots annually. Wartime accelerated programs degraded quality catastrophically. Yokaran program reduced from 3 years to 18 months, then 12 months, then 6 months. Advanced training eliminated. Fuel shortages limited flying hours. Experienced instructors recalled to combat units. Training became teaching basic flying, nothing more. By June 1944, Japanese replacement pilots averaged 275 hours total flight time. Some had 100 hours. Many never fired guns before combat. Carrier landing practice minimal. Navigation, training rudimentary. Formation, flying basic. Combat tactics non-existent. They could fly aircraft, barely. Combat capability, marginal at best. American approach was opposite. Industrial process producing pilots systematically. Training Command operated 14 air stations. 10,000 training aircraft. Facilities throughout Florida, Texas, California, every aspect systematized. Primary training, basic flying skills, 60 hours over 3 months. Stall recovery, navigation fundamentals, basic maneuvers. Secondary training, intermediate skills, 75 hours over 3 months. Aerobatics, formation flying, instrument procedures. Advanced training, operational skills, 100 hours over 4 months. Carrier qualification, gunnery, tactics, navigation, operational training, combat preparation, 100 hours over 3 months. Squadron integration, coordinated operations, advanced tactics. Total, 310 hours minimum before joining combat unit. Additional 200 hours in fleet training before first combat mission. 500 hours total. Twice Japanese training, quality systematic. Monthly pilot production exceeded 2,000. Losses were perhaps 500 monthly in heavy combat periods. Replacement rate 4-1. Accumulated advantage. More pilots than needed. Could rotate veterans home as instructors. Ensured tactical lessons incorporated immediately into training. Aircraft production showed similar disparity. American factories produced 36,000 combat aircraft 1944. Japan manufactured 13,000. American production, 3-1 advantage. Quality equal or superior. Industrial capacity overwhelming. Essex-Class carrier production demonstrated American industrial supremacy. 24 carriers built. 7 operational June 1944. 17 under construction. 1 launching every 6 months from Newport News alone. Japan building no new fleet carriers. Industrial capacity exhausted. Technology gap widened continuously. American radar systems improved monthly. Fire control radars more accurate. Air search radars longer range. Height finding capability added. IFF systems preventing friendly fire. Proximity fuses multiplying anti-aircraft effectiveness. VT fuses increasing lethality 300%. Data links coordinating multiple ships. Combat information centers integrating everything. Japanese technology stagnated. Zero fighter, essentially unchanged since 1941. Minor improvements only. Radar primitive and unreliable. Fire control basic. Communications obsolete. Industrial capacity insufficient for systematic improvement. Each American carrier technologically superior to any Japanese carrier, training and technology combined, creating insurmountable advantage. Well-trained pilots flying superior aircraft from capable carriers with advanced radar and coordination. Systematic excellence, overwhelming individual courage. Industrial warfare replacing warrior tradition. The beginning was industrial mobilization, training programs producing thousands of pilots, factories building thousands of aircraft, shipyards launching dozens of carriers, everything coordinated, everything systematic, everything designed for sustained total war. Mathematical equation favoring America absolutely. June 19th approached. 700 aircraft would clash over Philippine Sea. American pilots averaging 500 hours training, Japanese averaging 250. American radar providing detection 100 miles. Japanese flying blind. American coordination perfect. Japanese communications confused. Outcome predetermined by industrial preparation. Radar transformed naval warfare from visual guesswork to electronic certainty. SK air search radar, mounted on Essex-Class carriers, could detect aircraft at 100 miles range, altitude up to 30,000 feet. Full 360-degree coverage. Rotating antenna, scanning continuously. Every 4 seconds complete sweep. Detecting formations assembling over Japanese airfields. Tracking across hundreds of miles of ocean. Electronic visibility, absolute. Combat Information Center processed radar data into tactical decisions. Operators watched phosphorescent screens, calculating range, bearing, altitude, speed, plotting courses, identifying formations. Fighter direction officers vectoring interceptors to optimal positions, voice radio providing continuous guidance. Everything coordinated through CIC. SM fighter direction radar provided precise bearing data. SP height-finding radar calculated altitude accurately. Combined information allowed three-dimensional tactical picture. American fighter directors knew exactly where enemy aircraft were, could position Hellcats perfectly. Fire control radar revolutionized anti-aircraft defense. Mark 12 and Mark 22 systems tracked individual aircraft at 40,000 yards range. Calculated range, bearing, altitude continuously. Gun directors solved firing solutions automatically. Guns trained to predicted intercept point. Human gunners maintained rate of fire. Computer did mathematics. Hit rates improved dramatically. Visual gunnery against maneuvering aircraft achieved perhaps 2% accuracy. Radar fire control increased accuracy to 20% under optimal conditions. Tenfold improvement. Against mass formations, effectiveness even higher. Multiple guns engaging single target, coordinated by centralized fire control. VT proximity fuses multiplied lethality 300%. Variable time fuse, radio transmitter inside shell, detected when passing near aircraft. Triggered detonation automatically. Created lethal shrapnel cloud 30 feet radius. Direct hit unnecessary. Near miss sufficient. Revolutionary technology. Development was Manhattan Project level secret. Radio transmitter surviving gun firing. Acceleration. Battery activated by setback forces. Transmitter operating during flight. Receiving reflected signals. Everything miniaturized, ruggedized, mass-produced, distributed only to trusted forces. Japan never acquired technology. Testing proved devastating effectiveness. Traditional shells requiring direct hit. Probability minimal. Proximity fuse expanding lethal radius dramatically. Shell, passing within 30 feet, killed. Increased effective target area by factor 100. Combined with radar fire control, anti-aircraft effectiveness increased thousandfold. Japanese technology remained primitive comparatively. Radar systems unreliable. Detection ranges measured in miles, not tens of miles. No height-finding capability. Fire control, basic optical, no centralized coordination. Communications poor. Everything degraded compared to American systems. Zero fighter exemplified technological stagnation. Design from 1939, maximum speed 331 miles per hour. No armor protection. No self-sealing fuel tanks. Armament: two 20mm cannons with 60 rounds each, two 7.7mm machine guns. Limited ammunition. No improvements since war began. Hellcat represented continuous improvement. Designed from 1942, incorporating combat lessons, maximum speed 380 miles per hour. 212 pounds armor protecting pilot, oil systems, critical components, self-sealing fuel tanks. 650 caliber machine guns with 2,400 rounds total. Overwhelming firepower. Survivability, ensuring pilots returned. The discovery was systematic superiority at every level. Detection beyond visual range. Tracking through weather and darkness. Coordinated defense spanning fleet. Fire control accuracy tenfold improved. Proximity fuses expanding lethal radius. Industrial capacity producing unlimited ammunition and equipment. Cost was enormous, but effectiveness justified everything. $100,000. Mark 37 gun director, $50,000. VT proximity fuse, $20 per shell versus $2 conventional. Each carrier, investment millions, but combat effectiveness overwhelming. Japanese couldn't match technology. Industrial capacity insufficient. Scientific base inadequate. Manufacturing quality declining. Each engagement widened gap. American systems improving continuously. Japanese systems degrading from maintenance failures, lack of spares, absence of upgrades. The discovery was complete. Electronic warfare dominated modern naval combat. Nation with superior sensors and fire control would prevail. Training and courage remained necessary but insufficient without technological edge. Essex-Class carriers possessed both. Japanese carriers possessed courage only. Outcome mathematically determined before first aircraft launched. June 19th would prove discovery absolutely. Radar tracking Japanese formations from assembly over Kyushu. Fighter direction positioning Hellcats optimally. Fire control engaging with devastating accuracy. Proximity fuses creating walls of steel. Technology defeating courage systematically. Industrial supremacy made manifest through combat results. June 11th, 1300 hours. First fighter sweep launches from Essex-Class carriers. Lieutenant Commander Charles Brewer, commanding VF-15 from USS Essex, leads 32 Hellcats towards Saipan's Aslito airfield. Mission: destroy Japanese aircraft on ground and in air. Establish air superiority. Protect invasion fleet. Standard operating procedure for Task Force 58. Radar operator, First Class James Chen, aboard USS Essex tracks fighter sweep on SK air search radar. System detects aircraft. 100 miles range. Altitude up to 30,000 feet. Phosphorescent screen showing friendly contacts departing. Enemy airfields visible as geographic reference. Everything monitored continuously. Marianas air defense consists approximately 500 Japanese aircraft, but only half operational. Maintenance problems, fuel shortages, spare parts scarce, many aircraft grounded. Those flying, often combat ineffective. Pilots marginally trained, tactics primitive, 13:35 hours. Brewers Hellcats encounter first defenders, 30 Mitsubishi, a 6M0's rise to intercept. Formation ragged, spacing inconsistent. No coordinated tactics, just individual pilots doing best they can with minimal training. The engagement is brutally one-sided from first contact. Hellcats possess every advantage. Speed, 380 miles per hour versus 331. Climb rate, 7 minutes to 20,000 feet versus 9.5 minutes. Firepower, 650 caliber machine guns with 2,400 rounds versus 2 cannons with 120 rounds total. 2 machine guns ineffective against armor. Protection, 212 pounds armor. Self-sealing tanks versus no armor. Unprotected fuel. Tanks. Training. American pilots averaging 500 hours versus Japanese 200 hours or less. Experience. Squadron leaders with multiple combat tours versus barely qualified pilots on first missions. First Zero dies in opening pass. Hellcat diving from above. 6 machine guns converging at 300 yards. Armor-piercing incendiary rounds shattering unprotected aircraft. Zero explodes from fuel tank ignition. Pilot never knew what hit him. Second and third, Zero's attempt turning fight. Traditional Japanese tactic. Zero could outturn any American fighter, but Hellcats refuse engagement. Boom and zoom tactics. Dive, fire, extend away using superior speed. Japanese can't force turning combat. Americans dictate engagement terms completely. 4th through 6th Zeros destroyed in coordinated attacks. Section leader engaging while wingman provides cover. When Japanese focuses on one Hellcat, another attacks from different angle. Teamwork defeating individual effort. Systematic tactics overwhelming traditional methods. By 1350, engagement over. 18 Zeros destroyed, 3 damaged, 9 escaped through evasion or luck. American losses, 0. Not single Hellcat damaged. Complete dominance. Veteran pilots flying superior aircraft with better tactics achieving perfect results. Ground attack follows. Hellcats strafing Aslito airfield, destroying parked aircraft, cratering runway, igniting fuel dumps, creating chaos. Japanese anti-aircraft fire minimal, accuracy poor. Hellcats attacking in coordinated runs, some suppressing defenses while others strike targets. Professional execution. First day's total, 147 Japanese aircraft destroyed for 11 American losses. Kill ratio 13:1. Not combat. Execution. Commander David McCampbell's assessment accurate. Clubbing baby seals. Japanese pilots flew predictable patterns. Failed. Maintaining formation integrity. Showed poor gunnery skills. Tactical communications. Confused and contradictory. The reaction among American pilots was confidence bordering on contempt. These weren't Pearl Harbor veterans. These were kids barely able to fly. No threat individually. Dangerous only through numbers and determination. But numbers and determination couldn't overcome systematic advantages. Japanese reaction was shock and denial. Reports of massive losses dismissed initially, believed impossible. American claims exaggerated, but evidence mounted. Aircraft didn't return. Airfields destroyed. Control lost completely. Reality forced acknowledgement. American carrier aviation had achieved qualitative and quantitative superiority impossible to overcome. Fighter sweeps continued, June 12th, 13th, 14th, each day destroying dozens more Japanese aircraft. Marianas air defense eliminated systematically. American losses minimal. Essex-Class carriers operating with impunity. Launching strikes at will. No effective opposition. Tactical situation absolute. By June 15th, American invasion forces landing Saipan. Air superiority complete. Japanese aircraft nearly eliminated. Remaining aircraft ineffective. Pilots demoralized. Equipment broken. Supplies exhausted. Marianas falling despite desperate resistance. The reaction validated American approach. Industrial mass production, creating numerical superiority, systematic training, ensuring qualitative superiority. Technological advantages, multiplying both. Essex-Class carriers were weapons designed for this. Overwhelming opponents through systematic excellence, mathematics favoring America. Combat proving mathematics correct. Japanese carrier aircraft possessed longer range than American counterparts. This should have been decisive tactical advantage. Mitsubishi A6M0, 1,940 miles, range on internal fuel. With external tanks, range exceeded 2,000 miles. Nakajima B-5N Kate, torpedo bomber, similar endurance. Aichi D-3A Val dive bomber, 900 miles. Japanese aircraft designed for long-range operations. Pacific distances required it. American aircraft had shorter range. Grumman F-6F, Hellcat, 340 miles, combat radius. Curtiss SB-2C, Helldiver, 276 miles. Grumman TBF, Avenger, 275 miles. Designed for carrier operations within defensive perimeter, not extended-range strikes. This range disparity meant Admiral Ozawa could launch strikes from beyond American striking distance, position his carriers 400 miles from Task Force 58, launch attacks while remaining safe from counterattack, attack American carriers without being attacked himself. Tactical geometry favored Japan. Executive Officer John Williamson aboard USS Yorktown calculated implications. Japanese could strike from positions where American aircraft couldn't reach, force Americans to choose between pursuing Japanese fleet or protecting invasion beaches. Classic tactical dilemma: offensive versus defensive. Japanese initiative. But Williamson understood what Japanese apparently forgotten. Modern carrier warfare wasn't about individual aircraft performance, was about integrated system capabilities. Radar detection, fighter direction, coordinated defense, damage control, communications, discipline. Essex-class carriers possessed overwhelming advantages in every category except aircraft range. The contradiction was that range advantage proved worthless when Americans controlled engagement geometry through electronics. Radar detected Japanese formations assembling over their own airfields, tracked them across hundreds of miles of ocean. Fighter direction positioned interceptors optimally. American fighters engaging Japanese strikes 50 to 100 miles from carriers long before attacking aircraft reached targets. Even when Japanese aircraft penetrated fighter screen, they faced radar-directed anti-aircraft fire with proximity-fused shells, creating walls of steel impossible to penetrate. Survivors reported American ships surrounded by impenetrable shield of explosions. Range meant nothing when defenses prevented reaching targets. Tactical contradiction deepened through American submarines. USS Kavala and USS Albacore detected Japanese fleet, despite Ozawa maintaining positions beyond American air striking range. Submarines tracked continuously. Transmitted contact reports. American commanders knew exactly where Japanese carriers were. Japanese flew blind toward Americans who saw everything. Strategic contradiction was logistics. Japanese extended-range operations consumed enormous fuel. Each sortie depleted limited reserves. Tanker availability restricted. Fuel production declining from B-29 bombing. Range advantage became liability when fuel shortages limited operations. Americans had unlimited fuel, could operate continuously, Sustainability favored America. The training contradiction amplified tactical problems. Japanese pilots, with minimal navigation training, struggled finding targets across vast ocean distances. Many got lost. Some ran out of fuel searching, others found wrong targets. American radar guidance meant fighter direction could vector aircraft precisely. No navigation errors, no wasted fuel searching. Every attack reached intended target. Communication contradiction was decisive. Japanese tactical radio communications primitive and unreliable. Formation leaders couldn't coordinate attacks effectively. American fighter directors used clear voice radio continuously. Vectoring fighters, coordinating attacks, updating tactical situation, perfect communication, enabling perfect coordination. Cultural contradiction undermined Japanese advantages. Traditional doctrine emphasized individual pilot initiative and warrior spirit. Modern carrier warfare required systematic coordination and centralized control. Japanese pilots fought individually using traditional tactics. American pilots fought as coordinated teams using systematic methods. Teamwork defeated individualism consistently. The technological contradiction was fundamental. Range advantage assumed aircraft would survive to exploit it. Reality was Japanese aircraft so vulnerable that few survived American defenses. No armor, no self-sealing tanks. Hit once, they burned. Range irrelevant when aircraft destroyed before reaching targets. American aircraft designed for survivability. Pilots returned. Accumulated experience became more effective. The final contradiction was industrial. Japan designed long-range aircraft because couldn't build enough carriers for forward positioning. America built enough carriers to position anywhere needed. 15 fleet carriers versus 9 Japanese. Industrial capacity eliminated need for extended range. Could position task forces optimally for any operation. June 19th proved contradictions absolutely. Japanese launched 4 strike waves, totaling 373 aircraft. Utilized maximum range, approaching from beyond American striking distance. But radar detected every formation. Fighter direction positioned interceptors perfectly. Coordinated defenses destroyed 243 aircraft before reaching targets. Range advantage was meaningless when Americans controlled engagement geometry through systematic superiority. Tactical contradiction resolved through industrial excellence. Dawn, June 19th, 1944. Perfect flying weather. Unlimited ceiling. 40 miles visibility. Moderate trade winds. Ideal conditions for history's largest carrier battle. 7:30 hours. Radar operators aboard USS Yorktown detect first Japanese strike wave. Range, 140 miles. Bearing, west. Altitude, 18,000 feet. Count, 69 aircraft. Fighter Direction Officer Lieutenant Joseph Edsall begins vectoring combat air patrol fighters to intercept positions. The new Grumman F-6 F-3 Hellcats climb toward incoming raid. 650 caliber machine guns loaded. 400 rounds per gun. 2,400 rounds total. Armor protecting pilot. Self-sealing tanks, preventing fires. Everything designed for combat effectiveness and survival. Lieutenant Alex Vrashew flying from USS Lexington among first engaging. Ace with 12 previous victories. Today, he'll add 6 more. Become ace in a day. His after-action description captures engagement. I couldn't believe it. They were flying in perfect formation, like air show. No weaving, no cover, just straight and level. 8 minutes of combat. Vrashew shoots down 6 Yokosuka D-4Y Judy dive bombers, using only 360 rounds of ammunition. Less than 5 seconds total firing time. Precision gunnery by experienced pilot flying superior aircraft. Mathematics simple. American training and technology overwhelming Japanese inadequacy. Japanese strike leader, Lieutenant Commander Akira Tarue from carrier Taiho, never faced radar-directed fighter interception before. His pilots, averaging 150 hours flight time, unprepared for coordinated Hellcat attacks, Americans engaging from above and behind, using superior speed and firepower devastatingly. Of 69 aircraft in first wave, 42 shot down before reaching American fleet. Remaining 27 pressed attacks, but encountered radar-directed anti-aircraft fire. Mark 37 gun directors tracking individual aircraft. Proximity-fused shells creating lethal clouds. Only few survived to attack. Achieved minimal damage. Most destroyed by defensive fire. 09:10 hours. Submarine USS Albacore fires 6 torpedoes at carrier Taiho from 5,000 yards range. 1 torpedo strikes aviation fuel system. Causes vapor leaks that would prove fatal. Damage Control Officer Commander Usaka Kobayashi orders ventilation systems reversed. Clearing fumes inadvertently spreads aviation gasoline vapors throughout ship. Fatal error. 10:00 hours. Second Japanese strike wave arrives. 128 aircraft strong. Radar detects at 60 miles. Hellcats intercept immediately. Lieutenant Commander Charles Brewer, leading VF-15 from Essex, describes engagement. It was like training exercise. They flew straight into our guns without taking evasive action. My wingman asked if we were really in combat. 97 Japanese aircraft destroyed in second wave. American anti-aircraft fire directed by radar. Creating wall of steel. Proximity-fused shells detonating automatically near targets. Japanese pilots surviving reported American ships surrounded by impenetrable shield of explosions. Technology creating defensive barrier courage couldn't penetrate. 12:20 hours. Submarine USS Kavala puts 4 torpedoes into veteran carrier Shokaku. Captain Hiroshi Matsubara orders counter-flooding, but damage catastrophic. Aviation fuel leaking from ruptured tanks. Electrical systems failing. 3 hours later, Shokaku sinks with 1,263 men. Pearl Harbor veteran eliminated by submarine. 1,300 hours. Third Japanese wave of 47 aircraft reaches American fleet. Only 7 return to carriers. Fighter pilot Ensign Kiyoshi Muto, one of few survivors, testifies. American fighters were everywhere. Above us, beside us, behind us. Their tactics were perfect. We never had a chance. Admiral Ozawa, unaware of mounting losses, orders 4th strike. 82 aircraft at 11:30. Confused by poor communications and navigation errors, wave splits into 2 groups. One group of 33 aircraft flies north, finds nothing. Other 49 aircraft encounters task group 58.2. American Hellcats destroy 30 aircraft in 12 minutes. 14:52 hours. Massive explosion destroys carrier Taiho. Accumulated aviation fuel vapors reach critical concentration. Detonation breaks carrier's back. Sends her to bottom with 1,650 men, including Admiral Ozawa's air staff. Ozawa survives, transfers flag to cruiser Haguro. Effective command and control of mobile fleet ceases. By sunset June 19th, Japanese launched 373 carrier aircraft. Only 130 returned. American losses: 29 aircraft in air-to-air combat. Most pilots recovered. Kill ratio exceeds 10-1. Most lopsided air combat, result of entire war. The investigation revealed systematic American superiority. radar detection, enabling perfect interceptions, fighter direction, positioning interceptors optimally, better aircraft performance, radar-directed anti-aircraft fire, proximity-fused shells, damage control preventing ship losses despite hits, everything favoring America, nothing favoring Japan, mathematics predetermining outcome. Japanese strategic theory for Operation Ago was elegant but obsolete. Land-based aircraft from Marianas would attack and damage American carriers, reducing their combat effectiveness. Then, Ozawa's carrier aircraft would deliver killing blow, combined air, power, overwhelming American defenses. Decisive victory forcing negotiated peace. Strategic calculation, logical. American strategic theory emphasized defensive positioning. Rather than pursue Japanese fleet, Task Force 58 would remain tied to invasion beaches, forcing Ozawa to come to them, within range of search aircraft and submarines. Defensive advantage. Admiral Raymond Spruance made critical decision. Primary mission was protecting Saipan invasion, not destroying Japanese fleet. If given choice between pursuing carriers or protecting beaches took priority. Tactical theory for both sides emphasized carrier aviation's decisive power. Americans believed superior pilot training, better aircraft, advanced radar would provide winning advantage. Japanese believed warrior spirit, combat experience of veteran pilots, tactical skill would overcome material disadvantage. Reality validated American theory absolutely. Radar provided detection 100 miles range, 40 minutes warning. Time to launch fighters, position interceptors optimally, prepare defenses. Japanese formations tracked from assembly over Kyushu. Americans knowing strength, altitude, heading continuously, information superiority decisive. Fighter direction theory proved revolutionary. Centralized control, maximizing defensive efficiency. Combat air patrol maintained continuous coverage. Fresh fighters rotated into combat zone, damaged aircraft returned while others launched. Radar vectors positioning fighters for optimal interception. Coordination multiplying individual effectiveness. American pilot training theory emphasized systematic preparation, 500 hours minimum before combat. Gunnery practice until deflection, shooting instinctive. Formation tactics drilled repeatedly. Instrument flying enabling operations in any weather. Navigation taught thoroughly. Combat veterans rotating home as instructors. Lessons learned incorporated immediately. Japanese training theory emphasized quality through selectivity. Pre-war Yokoren program produced elite pilots through years of training, but wartime attrition destroyed system. Accelerated programs degraded quality catastrophically. By June 1944, replacement pilots received perhaps 150 hours total, barely adequate for basic flying. Combat capability marginal. Aircraft design theory showed fundamental divergence. American Hellcat prioritized pilot survivability, armor protection, self-sealing tanks, rugged construction. Philosophy: bring pilots home. Accumulated experience. Japanese Zero prioritized performance. No armor, no protection. Lightweight construction. Philosophy: skilled pilot doesn't get hit. Reality: everyone gets hit eventually. Industrial theory proved decisive. American mass production overwhelming Japanese limited capacity. Essex-Class carriers launching every 6 months. Hellcats produced by thousands. Proximity fuses by millions. Training programs producing pilots faster than combat consumed them. Replacements guaranteed. Losses acceptable. Sustainability ensured. Japanese industrial theory assumed quality over quantity. Individual craftsmanship producing superior weapons. Elite pilots compensating for numerical inferiority. Traditional values overcoming material disadvantage. Reality. Industrial warfare favored mass production. Numbers mattered. Replacements mattered. Sustainability mattered. Strategic bombing theory validated through Marianas operation. B-29 bases on Saipan, Tinian, Guam would bring Japanese homeland under systematic bombardment. Strategic objective achieved through carrier-supported invasion. Essex-Class carriers enabling amphibious operations, projecting power across Pacific, establishing bases for final assault. The theories collided June 19th. American systematic superiority versus Japanese individual excellence versus visual combat. Coordinated defense versus individual attacks. Mass production versus limited production. Training superiority versus degraded training. Technology versus tradition. Every engagement validated American theories. Radar detection enabling perfect positioning. Fighter direction coordinating defenses optimally. Superior training producing better results. Aircraft survivability ensuring pilots returned. Industrial capacity replacing losses immediately. Everything favoring America systematically. Japanese theories failed catastrophically. Land-based aircraft from Marianas destroyed before Operation Ago commenced. Carrier strikes intercepted far from targets. Pilot training inadequate for modern combat. Aircraft vulnerability causing catastrophic losses. Industrial capacity insufficient for replacements. Strategic objective impossible given material realities. The investigation afterward revealed complete American validation. Modern carrier warfare required integrated systems. Detection, interception, coordination, survivability, sustainability. Essex-Class carriers possessed all elements. Japanese carriers possessed courage only, courage insufficient against systematic superiority. Industrial warfare replacing warrior tradition. June 19th proved this absolutely. 373 carrier aircraft launched, only 130 returned. The mystery isn't why so many died. The mystery is how destruction was so systematic, so complete, so mathematically precise. First wave, 69 aircraft, 42 destroyed by fighters, 15 more shot down by anti-aircraft fire, 12 damaged, forced to abort. Only handful pressed attacks, achieved minimal damage, success rate, effectively 0. 61% losses. Second wave, 128 aircraft, 97 destroyed, 51 by fighters, 46 by anti-aircraft fire, 31 returned, most damaged. Success rate, near 0. 76% losses. Third wave, 47 aircraft, 40 lost, 28 by fighters, 12 by anti-aircraft fire, 7 returned. Success rate, 0. 85% losses. Fourth wave, 82 aircraft, 73 lost, 49 by fighters, 24 by anti-aircraft fire. Navigation errors caused many never to find targets. 9 returned. Success rate, 0. 89% losses. Total, 373 aircraft launched, 243 destroyed, 130 returned, many damaged beyond repair. Overall loss rate, 65%. Effective loss rate, higher considering damaged aircraft. Achievement, negligible damage to American fleet. Complete operational failure. The deeper mystery reveals through systematic analysis. Why were interceptions so effective? Radar detection at 100 miles provided 40 minutes warning. Fighter direction calculated optimal intercept geometry. Positioned Hellcats above and behind Japanese formations. Superior speed enabled Americans to dictate engagement terms. Superior firepower killed quickly. Superior training ensured accurate shooting. Superior coordination prevented Japanese mutual support. Japanese pilots never achieved tactical initiative. Americans controlled every engagement, chose when to attack, from which direction, with how many fighters. Japanese could only react. Reactions inadequate given training deficiencies. Formations dissolved under attack. Individual pilots attempted evasion. Destroyed separately. Coordination lost completely. Why was anti-aircraft fire so devastating? Radar fire control tracked individual aircraft at 40,000 yards. Calculated solutions continuously. Guns automatically trained to predicted intercept points. Proximity-fused shells detonated within 30 feet of targets. Created lethal shrapnel clouds. Hit rates 20% versus 2% visual gunnery. Coordinated fire from multiple ships. Overlapping coverage. No safe approach. Paths. Japanese aircraft lacked protection. No armor, no self-sealing tanks. Single hit, often fatal. Aviation fuel igniting. Aircraft burning. Crashing. Pilots dying. American aircraft absorbed multiple hits. Armor stopped bullets. Self-sealing tanks prevented fires. Pilots returned. Experience accumulated. Gap widened continuously. Why were casualties so one-sided? American losses. 29 aircraft, air-to-air combat. Most pilots rescued. 76 aircrew killed total, including operational losses. Japanese losses. 243 aircraft destroyed in combat, plus operational losses. Approximately 445 aircrew killed. Ratio 6-1. But qualitative difference even more stark. American losses were replaceable. Training pipeline producing 2,000 pilots monthly. Aircraft factories delivering thousands monthly. Losses replenished within days. Japanese losses irreplaceable. Training program producing few hundred pilots monthly. Quality marginal. Aircraft production declining. Experienced pilots couldn't be replaced at all. Knowledge died with them. Why couldn't Japanese adapt? Training inadequate for tactical flexibility. Pilots taught basic procedures. No advanced combat training. When procedures failed, no alternatives known. American pilots trained comprehensively, understood tactical principles, could adapt to circumstances, improvise solutions. Japanese rigidity versus American flexibility. Systematic training versus abbreviated programs. Why was coordination so disparate? American fighters operated as teams. Section leaders with wingmen. Division leaders with sections. Everything coordinated through radio. Fighter direction, providing continuous updates. Japanese communication poor. Radios unreliable. Procedures inadequate. Formation integrity lost under pressure. Individual survival attempts, no mutual support. Defeated in detail. The deeper mystery solution is systematic superiority, compounding at every level. Detection superior. Positioning optimal. Training better. Aircraft superior. Tactics coordinated. Fire control accurate. Survivability ensuring return. Industrial capacity enabling replacement. Everything multiplying. Advantages accumulating. Gap widening exponentially. Japanese faced impossible situation. Technology gap. Training gap. Experience gap. Industrial gap. Coordination gap. Every disadvantage compounding others. Courage insufficient. Determination inadequate. Warrior spirit meaningless against systematic superiority. Modern warfare requiring integrated systems. Industrial capacity. Technological edge. Training excellence. Everything Japan lacked. 373 aircraft died, proving industrial democracy's superiority over warrior tradition. Mathematics inexorable. Systematic excellence, overwhelming individual courage. June 19th demonstrated modern warfare's nature. future belonged to nations mastering technology, mass production, systematic training. Japan discovered this truth through catastrophic losses. Mystery solved through combat. Answer written in blood and burning aircraft. June 20th, 16:21 hours. Admiral Mitchell faces critical decision. Search aircraft from USS Enterprise located retreating Japanese fleet. Range, 275 miles west-northwest of Task Force 58. Extreme range, beyond normal combat radius of American aircraft. Recovery would occur after dark. Something carrier aviation doctrine strongly discouraged. But Mitchell understands this might be only opportunity to complete destruction of Japanese carrier aviation. Hesitation means Japanese fleet escapes. Ozawa rebuilds air groups, returns for another battle. Decision must be made immediately. Mitchell gives order. Launch everything you've got. 240 aircraft launch in 10 minutes from 11 carriers. 85 Hellcats, 77 dive bombers, 54 torpedo bombers. Every available aircraft. Maximum effort. Fuel calculations critical. Each pilot knows they have exactly enough fuel for strike and return with no margin for error. Lieutenant Commander James Jig Dog Ramage, leading Bombing Squadron 10 from Enterprise, briefs pilots. Gentlemen, this is one-way ticket unless you watch your fuel. Lean mixture, optimal cruise settings, no unnecessary maneuvering. We get one pass at target, then straight line home. American strike finds Japanese fleet at sunset. In fading light, carrier Hio takes multiple torpedo hits from Avengers of Belleau Wood. Old carrier, converted from passenger liner, has inadequate subdivision. Sinks in 2 hours with 250 men. Carriers Zuikaku and Chiyoda damaged. Battleship Haruna hit, but limited daylight restricts damage. Return flight becomes epic of navigation and endurance. As darkness falls, aircraft begin running out of fuel. Pilots ditching beside destroyers when engines quit. Others make it to vicinity of task force but can't find carriers in darkness. Fuel gauges touching empty. Desperation mounting. 45 hours. Mitchell makes decision that becomes legendary. Turn on the lights. Every ship in Task Force 58 illuminates. Searchlights pointed vertically. Running lights blazing. Flight deck lights outlining landing areas. Star shells bursting overhead. Destroyers firing illumination rounds. Entire fleet lit up like city. Visible for miles. Risk is enormous. Submarines might detect illuminated fleet, attack with torpedoes, killing carriers. But Mitchell accepts risk to save air crews. Pilots are irreplaceable. Ships are metal. Decision shows moral courage matching tactical brilliance. For 2 hours, fleet recovers aircraft. Many landing on any available deck. Hellcat designed for Essex-Class landing on Independence-class light carrier. Dive bomber landing on fleet carrier that didn't launch it. Torpedo bomber crash landing with dead engine, pushing damaged aircraft overboard to clear decks for others still. Airborne. 80 aircraft lost, running out of fuel, crashing on landing, ditching in ocean. But most pilots rescued. Destroyers assigned as plane guards, recovering pilots from water, sometimes within minutes of ditching. Aggressive rescue operations. 51 aircrew killed from 80 aircraft lost, remarkably low considering circumstances. The implications are profound. Mission cost American carrier aviation dearly. 80 aircraft, 51 aircrew, but Japanese carrier power finished. Hio sunk, Zuikaku and Chiyoda damaged. More critically, remaining Japanese pilots lack skill and experience for offensive operations. Mobile fleet rendered ineffective. Strategic implications immediate. Japanese naval aviation eliminated as effective force. Can no longer contest American carrier operations. Task Force 58 operates with impunity, supports amphibious operations without threat, projects power across Pacific without opposition. The industrial implications are decisive. American losses replaceable within days. 80 aircraft, factories producing hundreds weekly, 51 aircrew, training programs producing thousands monthly. Japanese losses permanent. Cannot replace carriers, cannot train replacement pilots adequately. Industrial capacity exhausted. Operational implications transform Pacific campaign. With Japanese carriers neutralized, American amphibious operations face no naval air threat. Invasions proceed on schedule. Philippines, Iwo Jima, Okinawa, all executed with carrier support. No Japanese interference possible. Strategic mobility achieved. Psychological implications shatter Japanese naval morale. Mobile fleet's destruction demonstrates futility of conventional operations. Admiral Toyoda's assessment: blunt. First mobile fleet has been rendered ineffective as offensive force. Our carrier pilot strength is exhausted. Must adopt alternative tactics. Those alternative tactics manifest 4 months later at Leyte Gulf as kamikaze attacks. Desperate resort of Navy that can no longer train conventional pilots. Strategic desperation replacing tactical capability. Admission of defeat disguised as new strategy. The implications are final. Battle of Philippine Sea destroyed Japanese naval aviation beyond recovery. June 19th killed 445 aircrew. June 20th killed 250 more. 3 carriers sunk. Hundreds of aircraft destroyed. Survivors inadequately trained for continued operations. Industrial capacity insufficient for rebuilding. Mathematical equation complete. Essex-Class carriers validated through systematic destruction of opponent. Commander David McCampbell's assessment captured truth about June 19th, 1944. By June 1944, we weren't fighting Japanese Navy that attacked Pearl Harbor. Those pilots were dead. We were fighting kids who could barely fly. Essex carriers and their air groups were weapons, designed for industrial warfare. Japan couldn't compete. The human dimension transcended statistics. 445 Japanese aircrew killed June 19th. These weren't faceless numbers. Each was individual. Son, brother, husband, father, dreams, futures, families, waiting home. All consumed by industrial warfare's systematic efficiency. Perhaps 150 hours total flight time taught basic flying. Nothing more. No advanced combat training, no gunnery practice, no tactical instruction. Just enough to take off, fly formation, land. If lucky, they wrote final letters home. Accepted death as certainty. Traditional farewell ceremonies, headbands inscribed with rising sun. Personal effects distributed. Each pilot knowing he was already dead. Question wasn't survival, but how many Americans he could take with him. Cultural values emphasizing honor over effectiveness. Some were veterans, few remaining from Pearl Harbor, Coral Sea, Midway, survivors of grinding Solomon campaigns, men with years of experience, hundreds of combat hours, elite warriors by any measure. These died leading formations of inexperienced pilots, trying to maintain cohesion under overwhelming attack, doing impossible with inadequate resources. Lieutenant Commander Akira Tarue led first wave from Taiho. Experienced pilot. Multiple combat missions. Led formation professionally. Maintained discipline, but couldn't compensate for systematic American advantages. Radar tracking from assembly. Fighters positioned perfectly. Coordination overwhelming. Most of his pilots died. Tarue survived, guilt carrying him forever. Why me and not them? Ensign Kiyoshi Muto described survivors' perspective. American fighters were everywhere. Above us, beside us, behind us. Their tactics were perfect. We never had a chance. Testimony from man who understood he'd survived through luck, not skill, randomness of survival haunting him. American losses were smaller, but equally personal. 76 aircrew killed over 2 days, 51 from June 20th twilight strike, pilots and gunners who ran out of fuel. Crashed on landing, died in ocean darkness, each leaving families, creating widows, orphaning children. American system replaced pilots, couldn't replace individuals. The courage existed equally on both sides. Japanese pilots pressing attacks despite overwhelming opposition. American pilots flying extreme-range missions, knowing fuel margins were non-existent. Both sides showing determination. Technology determining who lived. Industrial capacity determining outcome. Lieutenant Alex Vrachiu shot down 6 aircraft. June 19th became ace in day. Professional accomplishments celebrated. But decades later reflected, they were just kids, doing their duty, flying obsolete aircraft with inadequate training. Takes nothing from their courage. But courage wasn't enough against our advantages. Moral complexity haunts participants forever. American pilots executed orders professionally, killed efficiently, achieved objectives systematically, but many struggled reconciling military necessity with human cost. Japanese pilots they killed were combatants, legitimate targets, still humans dying terribly, burning, crashing, drowning, memories lasting lifetime. Japanese survivors faced different burden. Cultural shame of survival when comrades died, questions about personal honor, social stigma of defeat, combined with physical wounds, psychological trauma, economic hardship of post-war period. Many never spoke of experiences, couldn't process horror adequately. Families on both sides suffered identically, mothers receiving telegrams, wives becoming widows, children losing fathers, grief transcending nationality, strategic necessity providing cold comfort. Sons died for country, but still dead, still mourned, still irreplaceable. Recovery teams found bodies floating days after battle. American and Japanese both, retrieved when possible, buried at sea with appropriate ceremonies. Enemy status not preventing respect. International law maintained. Humanity preserved despite war's brutality. The statistical disparity was stark. 10-to-1 kill ratio, 6-to-1 casualty ratio. But each individual casualty was complete tragedy for family. Multiplication of grief by hundreds. Both sides experiencing loss. One side achieving strategic objectives, other side losing everything. Humanity existing regardless of outcome. Young men dying regardless of nationality. Industrial warfare consuming both victor and vanquished with systematic efficiency. Admiral Toyoda's assessment, June 24th, was blunt and absolute. First mobile fleet has been rendered ineffective as offensive force. Our carrier pilot strength is exhausted. We must adopt alternative tactics. The revelation was complete. Japanese naval aviation eliminated as effective fighting force, not through single dramatic defeat like Midway. Through systematic destruction accumulating over 2 days. Mathematics making comeback impossible. Vice Admiral Ozawa's report, equally damning. Enemy's radar-controlled interception was perfect. Their pilots displayed overwhelming superiority in every aspect of air combat. Our attacks were defeated before they could reach effective range. Mobile fleet air groups have ceased to exist as combat force. Professional assessment acknowledging defeat. Technology gap insurmountable. Training gap catastrophic. Industrial gap absolute. No path forward for conventional carrier operations. Strategic options exhausted. The casualty accounting revealed irreversible losses. 3 fleet carriers sunk. Taiho, Shokaku, Hio. Combined tonnage, 83,000 tons. Combined aircraft capacity, 225 aircraft. 476 to 600 total aircraft destroyed, including land-based. 445 aircrew killed. Most experienced pilots remaining to Japan. American losses, 123 aircraft. 76 aircrew killed. No carriers damaged significantly. Task Force 58 retained over 750 operational aircraft with trained pilots. Industrial capacity replacing losses within days. Strategic position stronger after battle than before. The mathematical equation was inexorable. Japan lost production capacity of 3 carriers. America produced 7 new Essex-Class carriers during same period. Japan lost 445 experienced pilots, irreplaceable. America's training programs produced 6,000 new pilots during same period. Industrial wars mathematics favored mass production absolutely. Japanese pilot training collapsed completely after Philippine Sea. Experienced instructors dead. Training aircraft scarce. Fuel critically limited. Accelerated programs further abbreviated. New pilots received perhaps 50 hours total before combat. Could barely take off and land. Combat capability non-existent. Death sentence disguised as military assignment, the revelation extended to strategic planning. Operation AGO assumed rough parity in pilot skill and equipment. Reality showed catastrophic disparity. American pilots averaged 500 hours training in superior aircraft with advanced radar support. Japanese pilots averaged 200 hours in obsolete aircraft without electronic support. Assumptions invalid. Strategy built on false premises. Failure predetermined. Admiral Toyoda's reference to alternative tactics proved prophetic. 4 months later, at Leyte Gulf, Imperial Japanese Navy implemented organized kamikaze attacks, special attack units, deliberate suicide missions. Strategic desperation replacing tactical capability. Admission that conventional operations impossible given material realities. First organized kamikaze attack occurred October 25th. Leyte Gulf. Lieutenant Yukio Seki led strike against American carriers. Sank escort carrier USS Street Low. Validated suicide tactics through success. Desperate measure becoming systematic strategy. Last resort of Navy that could no longer compete conventionally. Kamikaze represented complete failure of carrier aviation. Traditional naval aviation required training pilots, operating from carriers, coordinating attacks, returning to carriers, professional military operations. Kamikaze required minimal training, one-way missions, no return, pilot and aircraft expendable. Industrial warfare's logical conclusion when one side lacks industrial capacity. The psychological revelation devastated Japanese naval morale. Survivors understood, mobile fleet destroyed, carrier aviation finished, conventional operations impossible, future consisted of suicide attacks, strategic situation hopeless. Many requested kamikaze assignments, honorable death preferable to witnessing defeat's progression. American revelation was opposite. Essex-Class carriers validated completely. Industrial approach to warfare proven correct. Mass production defeating craftsmanship. Systematic training overwhelming traditional excellence. Technology multiplying human capability. Radar enabling perfect coordination. Everything working as designed. Future belonged to nations, mastering industrial warfare. The strategic revelation transformed Pacific War. With Japanese carriers neutralized, American amphibious operations proceeded without naval air threat. Philippines liberated. Iwo Jima captured. Okinawa seized. B-29 bases established. Strategic bombing campaign intensifies. Path to Japan opened. Essex-Class carriers enabling every operation, projecting power continuously, supporting invasions systematically. The final revelation was complete. Philippine Sea marked end of era when naval aviation was elite art practiced by warrior pilots. Future belonged to nations transforming warfare into industrial process. Victory determined by production statistics, training hours, technological specifications. Individual heroism insufficient without systematic support. Essex-Class carriers embodied this truth. Japanese naval aviation discovered this truth through catastrophic defeat, revelation, written in steel and blood. Industrial democracy validated absolutely. By October 1944, when Imperial Japanese Navy made final gambit at Leyte Gulf, carrier force that stunned world at Pearl Harbor no longer existed. 4 carriers sailed with Admiral Ozawa as sacrificial decoy force, carrying only 108 aircraft with half-trained pilots. Engagement off Cape Engano was less battle than execution. American carrier aircraft sank all 4 Japanese carriers while losing only 10 aircraft. 3 years of grinding attrition culminated in this final demonstration of irrelevance. Essex-Class carriers continued operations throughout Pacific War, but greatest victory already won. In 2 days over Philippine Sea, they achieved what 3 years of grinding attrition failed to accomplish: complete destruction of Japanese naval aviation as effective fighting force. Production statistics revealed futility of Japanese resistance. By June 1944, American shipyards commissioned 7 Essex-Class carriers, with 17 more under construction. Newport News Shipbuilding launching 1 carrier every 6 months. Total construction time reduced to 14 months through standardized components and assembly line techniques. Final tally: 24 Essex-Class carriers completed, serving through Korea, Vietnam, into 1970s. USS Lexington, survivor of Philippine Sea Battle, remained in commission until 1991, testament to robust design that revolutionized naval warfare. Longest-serving carrier in American history, symbol of industrial democracy's triumph. Technological gap proved equally decisive. American radar systems providing 100-mile detection ranges, height-finding capability. Mark 37 gun, directors tracking at 40,000 yards. VT proximity fuses, increasing anti-aircraft lethality 300%. Combat information centers, coordinating defenses with unprecedented efficiency. Japanese technology remained frozen at 1941 levels. Zero fighter revolutionary, at war's beginning, received only minor improvements. Radar systems primitive and unreliable. Communications equipment obsolete. Most critically, Japan lacked industrial capacity to incorporate combat lessons into new designs. Each American carrier possessed technological advantages impossible to overcome. Training programs revealed strategic divergence between combatants. U.S. Navy Training Command operated 14 air stations with 10,000 training aircraft. Monthly pilot production exceeded losses by a factor of 3. Each pilot progressed through primary, basic, advanced, operational training phases. Combat veterans rotated home as instructors. Tactical lessons immediately incorporated into curriculum. Japanese training collapsed into abbreviated programs, producing marginally qualified pilots. Yokaran program producing elite naval aviators before 1942, reduced to teaching basic flying skills. Advanced combat training eliminated due to fuel shortages. Formation flying, gunnery practice, navigation training minimal or non-existent. Human cost was staggering. Of 450 Japanese aircrew lost in Philippine Sea, most were irreplaceable veterans with over-year combat experience. Their loss meant institutional knowledge of carrier operations died with them. Survivors lacked experience, training replacements, or developing new tactics. American personnel policies ensured continuity. Combat tours limited preserving veteran pilots. Rotation policies meant every squadron contained mixture of veterans and newcomers. Experienced pilots assigned to training commands after completing combat tours. Systematic approach to human resource management proved decisive as technological superiority. Admiral Chester Nimitz's assessment was characteristically understated. Essex-Class carriers and their air groups represented American industrial democracy at war. Mass production, technological innovation, systematic training created weapon system that Japanese could neither match nor counter. Battle of Philippine Sea was not just tactical victory, but validation of American approach to modern warfare. Legacy extended beyond World War II. Carrier aviation doctrine established at Philippine Sea influenced Cold War operations. Carrier battle groups, integrated air defense, fighter direction, everything tracing heritage to 1944 innovations. Modern naval aviation descended from Essex-Class operations. In depths of Pacific Ocean, 3 Japanese carriers rest on seabed, aircraft still in hangars. Pilots at stations. They stand as monuments to last moment when individual skill and courage might have overcome industrial mass production. But mathematics, as Executive Officer Williamson understood, was inexorable. Essex-Class carriers had not just won battle, they demonstrated that future naval warfare belonged to nations capable of mobilizing industrial democracy, technological innovation, systematic training on massive scale. Philippine Sea marked end of era, when naval aviation was art practiced by elite warriors. Future belonged to nations transforming warfare into industrial process, where victory determined by production statistics, training hours, technological specifications. Essex-Class carriers, products of American shipyards and crewed by citizen sailors, forever changed nature of naval warfare. Industrial democracy validated through systematic destruction of opponent. Mathematics proving decisive. June 19th and 20th, 1944. Days when carrier aviation's future was written. Industrial age defeating warrior tradition. Technology replacing courage. Mass production, overwhelming craftsmanship. Essex-Class carriers proving America's way of war superior. Legacy enduring through Cold War into modern era. Industrial democracy's triumph, complete and final.